can say, because I stand on a very, very good platform, my office, my email box, I am inundated with young men and women who are convinced that nothing can happen to you in this country unless you know somebody. And that we are running at best what is like a semi-feudal institution. That are available in Sweden and elsewhere. It requires that we appreciate the fact that we have come from a very long period of failed promises. I live in the village where I come from. The kind of people that are on the periphery of national life where I work, who have no access to newspapers, they have no access to the computer, they have no other way of getting information. The point I'm making is we need, therefore, to, as I said, overcome the fact that people have become genuinely cynical about government promises, about the fact that there is a glass ceiling which literally makes it very difficult if you don't have the connections to be able to enter. Because I think that where we are going requires that young men who have the capacity, intellectual and otherwise, and are competent, really and truly should be able to attain their heights. But what will happen is that you will find ourselves inadvertently constructing a pyramid of equality. Immigration, customs, army, the advertisements come out. And young people are supposed to apply. But the truth of the matter, as I said, the kind of young people who come to me, it's difficult for me to convince them that you can access every opportunity based on your capacity and on your competence. And in my view, unless you create a society in which ordinary people believe that they can trust the finishing post and that the goalposts are not constantly shifting, it will be difficult, no matter how much the opportunities are, for you to have a much wider range of people participating in confidence.
Wow. I didn't expect less, sir. Thank you. I would have responded that the audience, they aren't the people creating the policies. So it's not them creating the opportunities. So I would, just jump over you and go to Pastor Ben. How do we give people hope? There's a sense of hopelessness as described by the bishop. How, as you answer your bit, how do we, from a policy side, how do we give people hope, sir?
Well, I believe you have to communicate hope. But beyond communication, especially when you're coming from the background of the sort of deep, rooted cynicism, as Bishop referred to, you have to demonstrate that to them. And I know that Mr. President, for instance, has given directive that all, that government agencies, especially those doing sizable recruitment, must advertise those recruitments, and that they must be open such that life is ultimately, there may be people who will get in through, perhaps connections or whatever. But the point is that each of those recruitments must, at the end of the day, deliver an outcome such that many, people, many applicants who didn't have to know anybody and simply applied, come through the process. And I actually applied. His Excellency the Vice President has left, but you see, he superintended a program also called the Empower program, through which 500,000 Nigerian youths were provided what you may call stopgap employment, during which it was designed to be a 2-year program. They've been extended and kept on longer than that. But it was, to provide them work, and while they're working, provide them skill, upgrade to them be able to actually find more permanent work or, other, entrepreneurial opportunities. And the Vice President was intent that that process would be open such that any qualified, Nigerian that went through the process. That's why, people, it was done online and, transparent. And most of us, practically everyone who went through, and among the 500,000 who got into that, if you ask them, they will confirm to you that they got on, on merit. Indeed, Vice President became very unpopular with the politicians who couldn't understand how the government could be running such a program. And they didn't have a say as to who got into the program. And I sat in several sessions where, the politicians, both on the executive and the legislative side, were tackling him on the same issue.
Thank you very much, sir. So it sounds like it will be a question of...
First of all, I think that each of the men must position themselves to, you must seek to position yourself as a provider of some solution. If there's a problem that you're providing solution for, you will experience success, you will experience growth. And then, of course, you must be prepared to apply yourself diligently. The Bible makes that point even, we're all familiar with the scripture. Seest thou a man diligent in his business, he will stand before kings and not, before mean men. And then ultimately, of course, you've got to depend on the Almighty God, because as the Word of God tells us also, at the end of the day, the race is not necessarily to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. It says, it's not the men of skill, compared to, the rich. So there is still a God factor that you must ultimately depend on. But the thing is not to try and depend solely on that God factor, because God promise to us is that He will prosper the works of our hands. So if your hands do no work, it will be looking for magic to expect to prosper, and our God is not in the magic business.
Deal with that issue. I think first of all, we are in a patriarchal society. In order to avert the pressures that we experience as Africans, the pressure to raise the pressure to get married, the pressure to raise a family, the pressure as a man responsible for not only your parents but also extended families, the pressure that makes it very difficult for people to deal with the moral issue of God blessing our hands, the work of our hands. Well, there are a lot of people who...
To the men folk.
Thank you, Yinka. Let me come from one perspective, which is to say, despite the challenges we face and the odds, we must remember that the principles... So let me give you a few principles that I know have worked for me and also work for everybody when it comes to growth, geometric growth, prosperity. The first one is that the man is more important than the mission or what he's doing. It's important to invest in yourself. Whether it's from a spiritual dimension of being a person of character, a person of diligence, it's impossible for such an investment not to pay off. It's impossible. There's no way a man can have integrity, have character, and God in all his faithfulness despite how popular it is to say it's useless, nothing works, it would work for you if you invest in yourself. Of course, this includes education. Related to that is something he mentioned. I had the privilege of listening to him. He talked about the power of vision. In other words, a man that has purpose, a man that has a purpose, a man that is going somewhere, it's very difficult to stop him. The converse is also true. You know, the way it is said is that, like, if a man doesn't know where he's going, anywhere will get him there. Some other people know is that it was impossible for him to die because of that vision that he was carrying, that was God-given. Because God will honor the vision. And I pray that every one of us will have a God-given vision in Jesus' name. Amen. And then I want to build on a point that Adewumi Adeshino, the president of FDB, Akinwumi made. This point about when he was saying be patient, the corollary to that is what we call the power of compound interest. In other words, if you are doing the right thing, time becomes your friend. You will find that, like, most good things happen over time. But that's when time is compounding in your favor. What the bankers call the power of compound interest. So it's important to make time work for you. It is trying to be world class. We live in a global village. So don't try to just say I'm better than my neighbor, but it's also...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Similar story that I have known Pastor Oke for some time. The story, I left Nigeria in 1984. I used to work with Arthur Anderson. But I had the vision I wanted to go for a master's. We didn't have the money. I was trusting God for a scholarship, and we got one. In 1984, they had banned foreign. These people are. So sometimes your disadvantages can be advantages. So
Thank you, sir. $3 million in the 90s. You thought that was a lot of money. Even today, sir, it's a lot of money. It sounds like their candle. But Pastor, before you put down the microphone, I want to ask you, is it possible to integrity? Because sometimes you talk to people, they tell you church is church, business is business. So all these things that you have painted, and is it possible in Nigeria of 2020 to do them and come through without...
that we're trying to mentor. You do because you are not like the others. If you're not like the others, you will have problems. But that is also what is going to help you. There are challenges. Doing business in Nigeria is tough. Christians have found many ways of doing businesses in Nigeria. What you don't like to call bribe, if you don't want to give bribe, we have consultants. One of the things I did, one of the many businesses, a cocoa business. I was a cocoa merchant. I've done quite a few businesses. I used to go to Akure, Ondo. I will buy cocoa. I will export it. One day, because they were asking for bribe. And I was born again then. And I refused to give them the money. And they came together and decided to punish me. But when they were having their discussion, an old man walked by. God bless his soul. He's dead now. Chief Omidiron from Oshogo. Rich man. He had children about my own age. So he heard them talking that they were going to deal with this boy who was not paying this thing, who came to the business. So the old man just approached them and said, look, that young boy is my son. They said to him, if your son, go and warn him.
Initial timeline for reopening the borders was 31st January 2020. I'm not sure now whether it's of the ECOWAS trade protocols by our neighbors. For instance, under the ECOWAS trade protocols, okay, you cannot be a channel for, to facilitate smuggling into your neighboring country. But we all know that while Nigeria had determined that to keep out imported rice and grow its own domestic rice, industry, the Republic of Benin, where they don't even eat parboiled rice, they eat a different brand of rice. They suddenly shot up to become the largest importer of parboiled rice. So where all of that rice was headed. and it appeared that this was with official sanction in the in the country. They knew what was going on, and they did nothing to stop it. It was like, look, I mean, it made economic sense for them. Their ports were busy, and they made, the customs and the security agencies have also reported that a lot of these drugs like tramadol and whatever that are being abused, which are not allowed officially into the country, are coming in through this. At the end, that's not, of course, to excuse our own failures to do by our own, we want to deal with all of this. We also have the situation with, imported petroleum products. Unfortunately, we basically import all of the petroleum products that we currently consume, which is a big shame for us as a country. But the volume of imported products on which we were paying subsidies and which is costing, government, a lot of money, several hundreds of billions of naira in subsidy every year. It was clear that determine, more reasonably what our actual consumption of those products are, and on the basis of which, until government policy changes, the subsidy regime will be, premised. So clearly, it cannot be permanent. If it's permanent, it will hurt. And there are, unfortunately, some businesses, legitimate Nigerian businesses, that are currently being hurt by it. There's a company, for instance, here that, 2/3 of their products, a company in the confectionery business, 2/3 of their products were actually being sold outside of Nigeria in the sub-region. That company now is hard hit by this sort of situation. There are also things that legitimately used to bring in some of their raw materials from the neighboring countries, and unfortunately, they too are, suffering currently.
Thank you for your candor, sir. Thank you very much. It's not easy, and I'd like you to link it to what you do for a living, private equity. I think it's fair to acknowledge you as the father of private equity in Nigeria. So is it money that people, yes, it's a good place. It's one of us acknowledge that this is the father of private equity in Nigeria, Dr. Oke Enalama. If you are clapping, please clap properly. Thank you.
Our moderator is showing us that he's not just, that when he's in a good mood, he can also be an encourager. Thank you, Yinka. Let me say that, and this is being very brutally frank about this. When you ask me such a question, the first thing that occurs to me is what Jim Collins, the man who wrote Good to Great, said. First who, then what? The missing piece in that thing, which is sort of implied, is the entrepreneur. And that's where the magic really lies, or where the answer lies. It's the quality of the entrepreneur first. That's what makes the difference. In fact, in a place like Harvard Business School, they define entrepreneurship as the ability to exploit and building the entrepreneur, so that he has that idea, he has the maybe some track record or know-how, he has some credibility, he has some network. Because ultimately, the way it works is it's that drive that will lead to at least some of the seed capital. Usually starts from, family, friends, and it's also what will make it go further. Because during that time, everybody starts off, with limited resources. So my view is that the work has to do with, creating the environment for entrepreneurship, like we said earlier, so that entrepreneurs can emerge, and gradually the ideas start getting seeded. In other words, they start getting fed, and then ultimately, like President Adesina was saying, we truly encourage entrepreneurship by providing the capital that is needed, which is why he's talking about this Young Entrepreneurs Bank and all the other ideas. Every society that ultimately makes it, goes into alignment and partnership with his people. Individuals, as after all said and done, still need an enabling environment. If the environment is hostile, certainly it will limit the amount of success. It will also limit the quality of the success. And it is in our collective benefit, therefore, to act, collectively like he was suggesting. That's why I agree with his very inspiring speech, to say more must be done to help our people to succeed.
Thank you. And what about these high interest rates? 29%. Are you still borrowing at 29%?
My banker, who is Inka, whispered to me, and I agree with him. In fact, let me tell a story. So, we are launching a university for technology, which I've been working on. Fortunately, somebody gave money to that university, a lot of money. So we had it in the bank. The lady who was working on this came and told me that the bank said, this was at the beginning of the year, that the interest rate was 0.5%. So I thought it was because she wasn't a banker or financially literate. I said, go and ask them, that must be the interest rate for the day. She said, no, that rates have crashed. That they said, at that particular time, that's the rate they were offering. Maybe the bank had too much money in their vault or whatever. It's all to say that there is a shift in the interest rate environment that I think is favorable to entrepreneurs. In fact, I got a text today, one of these banks saying, there was some place where I saw saying interest rates crashed from maybe 2% per month to 1% per month. So I think things are changing, but it's still not enough. We have a long way to go.
Okay, thank you for helping us to clarify. So interest rates are falling, and businesses that want to borrow to do business is the right time. Things that you thought were an accident have become positive. Bishop, sir.
Can I say a word?
Go ahead, sir.
Because about environment. The point made by Pastor, I have a problem with your name because the president of... When you talk about the closure of the borders purely from the economic point of view, there are also other considerations that are trending. They are also popular, which is from the part of the country that I come from. When you talk about the borders and visa on arrival and so on and so forth, there are genuine fears where I live, the nature of the people who are going to be coming in. I don't know whether government has taken care to review how you define whether it is in economic terms, how you confirm whether somebody is genuinely interested in coming to do business in Nigeria. Because I'm talking about this in relation to Boko Haram and what we have to do in northern Nigeria, which has spread through the entire country. That also makes the point that whether interest rates crash, with due respect, it is really a question of how people perceive the environment. And I don't know how, because it's a point I've been making. I am not a politician. I'm interested in politics. Some people think I'm a politician. It's just that whether you like it or not, we are in politics. Now, I find that it is very difficult to hold and sustain a conversation that doesn't get diluted by political considerations. But I keep making the point that I don't think we've done enough an image of this country that makes it sufficiently attractive. So in my view, and I may be 100% wrong, that it is most likely that a lot of the people who are coming to do business in Nigeria, many of them don't go to the Nigerian embassy. They probably just find out one other. Do you still have the green page, the missing pages in your passport? And I said, what do you mean? So, well, there is always a missing page in a Nigerian passport. And I was the only Nigerian in the gathering. This was a gathering of a lot of white people who were friends of Nigeria. And for the collapse, for the quality of values that have permeated our society. We've got the manpower, we've got the resources, moral and otherwise, but tragically, the values of the gospel have really never very seriously been taken to the business place and to the marketplace. So it is important that we are having this conversation, but I think, quite frankly, that we need to be a bit more robust, that yes, the environment, it looks like, our challenge is not to become the environment, but to let that environment respond, to the message of Christ, which I think it's something that we've not done in very, very strong terms. This morning for us in the Catholic Church, we celebrate the conversion of St. Paul. And when you read scripture and you find what the Bible says about what Paul was thinking on his way to Damascus, the Bible says he was breathing hatred for Christians. And the point I'm making is when I sit down and look at all these, we are victims of kidnappers, victims, assassins, and all kinds of people. Do we really feel sufficiently confident to confront whether it is corruption or whether it is this dysfunctional government that we have? And I'm not talking here about the government of the day. Dysfunctionality has been part and parcel of governance in Nigeria. This is why we've ended up where we are. So I just want to say that, yes, the environment is important, but I think we
want to do business, given what you know.
Oh, yeah. The certificate will be the security, so it's available. Now, for most loans, up to about 10 million naira in Bangkok, you very well. We've been asked, of course, if you default, we will write to them and try to pursue. So over time, many of the civil servants now are not even willing to give guarantees. Even though if we're not asking for your house, people now come back to me and say, MD, can you help me? I say, for me to guarantee to borrow money from my bank? So they are available. But if you are just starting your business, the best place to start to raise money is what you have. If you don't have what your parents can give you, what your friends can give you, what you can get from relatives, it is not always good to start a business with debt. That should be stage 2 or stage 3. It is friends, family. Somebody will ask, I'm fools. Why do they call them fools? Because they are not tested. But I will not call them fools. I will say people that believe in your dream, who want to help you. They're like angel investors. And there are people like that. My first big loan was my sister-in-law. I got a traineeship to go and work in Norway as a student in University of Ibadan. And I was talking to my brother to try and borrow money for my ticket. And my brother told me, I will not give you my money because I'm not sure you're going to pay me back. And I was trying to convince him. And my brother warned her in my presence. If he doesn't pay you back, it's between the two of you. And she did. And I paid her back. So there are times that people that believe in him might not even be your parents. But at least if you have a good proposal, sell it to people. Well, if you sell it, they might take your business ideas. That is the risk that you stand, as a person who's just starting out. But you have to take the risk. You just cannot wait and do nothing. So borrowing should be the last resort because you are saddling your new business with debt from the very beginning. Try to get money from people that know you. If people that know you don't believe in you, go and review your business strategy again. It means there may be things that they know that you don't know. And then study the area you want to get into. People just, like maybe they've come here today, they've heard that, IT is a good area to go to. Next week they come to you with a 2-page document that they want to invest in IT. No idea about IT, no focus, no planning, definitely they're bound to lose money. So do research in that area. If possible, I tell people, try to have some mentorship. Start it, maybe the first thing you do, they say they are cheating you, but you are learning the business. And then from that stage, you can go on. So money is available. But don't go and borrow money at 5% per month because you're going to get into trouble.
Thank you very much, sir. This is wise counsel from a practitioner, and I know he does it daily. I've been to his office myself to solicit for some people. Thank you very much, Pastor. I want to ask one very, very shortly after this question. We will turn it to the satellite locations. So if you have any question, the address to your question is the address we used earlier. Will be displayed now on the screen. So that you can post your question. So I want to ask one last question before we go to the satellite locations. Dr. Okay. One topic that was raised earlier was about some foreign nationalities doing business and are more successful than Nigerians in Nigeria. And I would like to link that to the fact that it's hard to find, say, a second or third generation business in Nigeria. The country has been going on for another, maybe about 100 years. What is the issue? So that people here, as they start their businesses, they can be mindful of those challenges. Why don't we have second or third generation businesses in Nigeria?
It's an excellent question. In fact, this is our mentor that Pastor Kayode talked about, Dick Kramer. That bothered him a lot. He talked about, he always asked, almost rhetorically, why don't we have second, third generation Nigerian businesses, particularly family businesses? And I think it comes down to, first recognizing the life cycle of a business. It's one thing to start a business as an entrepreneur, as a promoter. When businesses grow, they need some other factors if they're going to be sustained. And by far the two most important, which will produce all the other things, are management and governance. Governance is the board or how you supervise the business. And then of course management is how, who runs the business day to day and with the team. And it doesn't always have to start and end with the promoter. Because if the business is successful, in fact, you could even argue that one of the things that will make the business successful is for the promoter to attract people who complement him or her and who would help to expand the reach of the business. And eventually, you will find that by investing in the people become an important part of the business. I'm sure you hear all the time people say our greatest asset is our people. To complement our moderator, somebody was talking to me yesterday. He said in Stanbic IBTC that, they hardly hire from outside, that they just have been investing in their people for years. And I know it's true because I know Yinka has been there. And so you can imagine a business that is invested in the people, whether they're family members or not, they're likely to have a pool of talent that can keep that business going. And the same thing is true of even why people go into partnerships, because I know there was a question around partnerships as well, where people decide to work together. They can imagine if disciples didn't disciple anybody else, the faith will die. So it has to be that structure that like one generation feeds the next and then passes the baton if the business will survive.
Thank you very much. Satellite locations, are we ready? Maybe I will ask you and then I will give you a chance. I'm now at Christ Church location in Bagada. And the question is, which I asked one of the organizers, how come there is no woman on the panel? I'll answer it later. Pastor, go on. Maybe that's on your mind, so I'd like to preempt it. Go ahead, Pastor.
No, I just wanted to tag on to the answer that gave Nigerian businesses to send to second generation. I agree with all that he has said, but I also think that there's often times when we address this subject, there is a contributory factor that we usually do not speak to. And I have interrogated, friends or people I know whose parents, them go through some really tough times. And, they say to themselves, I don't want a unbridled, uncontrolled smuggling. Many of those businesses collapsed. And some of these guys watched to look for easier means of living.
Thank you. Hopefully some of these are...
One observation, and I actually meant to say this earlier. One of the other things that helps business continuity and longevity and sustainability is separation of ownership and management. Notice that implicit in what Pastor Ben was saying is that like the sons or the children, they want to continue, which is ownership. To tie the ownership and management tightly as one and the same, then the business is likely to die if they don't want to continue.
Thank you very much. Fact. We will take 2 questions from the room at this time. If you have any question, there's somebody at the back. We'll take 2 questions. Our brother here in grade.
Who's the person in gray?
Here, sir. Behind you.
Okay. Please note, your question is just 1 second, 1 minute, and you just name and what you do.
Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Kola Alabi. I am an environmentalist. I actually wanted to ask this question, put it to His Excellency and Dr. Additional. But notwithstanding, I know we still have people here to give me an answer. Galvanize or geometric growth. The other side, till the ground. The other side, take care of the ground. Now we are promoting industrialization in Nigeria through the SMEs. And I know America went through the same process, and when they saw that the people were being killed, when the economy was growing, then they introduced HSC and all of that to them. Now environmental concerns in Nigeria. We are growing SMEs. How are we concerned? Now we have tagged them as the highest polluters of the environment. Should we continue to make the money and leave the environment uncared for? I just want to have the feel of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we should take the second one so that we can answer and try to wrap. Question in the room. Sir, can you take it to this side? There are many ants on that side. Let the Spirit lead you. Whoever you give it to.
to put into his movie. These guys are already like big. Now, the startups, the people like us that want to expand, to be able to employ more people who are also young guys as well, too, so that they will take them off the street and give them something to do. What can we do? How do we go through this application process that most times is so rigorous that you would rather invest that time in looking for clients than applying for a grant or a loan?
Thank you very much. The two questions, one was on the environment, the other one was how to access the financing scheme put up by the central bank through the commercial banks. So who's going to take the environmental question? Pastor Ben, looks like you. So Pastor Ben will help us take that one, and Pastor Kaide, you will help us take the one on the interest rate. Or perhaps we should just come and see you. Pastor Ben, answer the question relating to the environment.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say we shouldn't be concerned about the environment as we seek to grow our businesses. But, you know, I think that that has to be, China is often accused of not paying sufficient attention to environmental standards.
an Ashoka Fellow, IVLP Fellow, and Cotran Fellow. He's currently the chairman, Agriculture and Agro-Allied Group, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He gives back to the community by hosting Agribusiness NG on Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. Actually, I listen to it Mondays, 5:30 p.m. with over 400,000 weekly listeners, which demystifies agribusiness. You know, sometimes ago I was into fish farming, and some people will tell you before they give the formula to be able to do the fish, whatever, they say you pay. And when we got into it, we were giving it out free. What is the big deal? The more farmers, the better for everybody. He's the author of Farming by Revelation and co-authored Green Gold. He's convinced he will be the second Nigerian to win the prestigious food prize after Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Join me to honor in the life of Mr. African Farmer, Mogaji. Please, can we please appreciate him? God bless you, sir. You are welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please have your seat. I give God the glory for this opportunity. I do not take it for granted. And the leadership of the Redeemed Christian Church and the Men's Fellowship. It's a privilege to be here. And I like to start by making a statement. Every morning in the last 3 years, between the hours of 5 and 6, I'm glued to Dove TV. How many people watch Dove TV here? You know, it's our television station. It gives me inspiration and insight for the day. But yesterday I was surprised when I saw a video. Baba was preaching. Baba Deboye was preaching. And I saw President Jonathan. If you watched yesterday, I saw President Jonathan in front. But the camera just went to the back. And who did I see at the back on a normal chair? It was, or it is, the current Vice President of the nation, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. They showed that like 3-4 times. President Jonathan was in front. Current Vice President was way back. And if they told the Vice President then that he was going to become the Vice President, I'm sure that he wouldn't think about it. So I want you to turn to the left and to the right and just say, "Welcome, Your Excellency." Because I also observed that the Vice President was sitting beside one man. And I'm sure that that man did not know that he was at that moment in time sitting with the Vice President. So I want to appeal to you, because you don't know who the Excellency beside you is. Take the number and connect with that person, because you never can tell. Praise the Lord. Thank you, because when we come for programs like this, it's easy for us to get carried away with what the speakers are saying and forgetting that it is not by chance that you are sitting by the person next to you. So please take those very important. Yes, it's generally said that when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And I will tell you a story now. Many people I don't think I've shared this publicly on why I changed my name to African Farmer. Because most of my clients are secular. So you can't say God said, God said, God said. And I've not gotten the wisdom to say Chief Emmanuel or Professor Emmanuel, like Baba Deboye will always say. So there was a time in my life when I was having some ups and downs. And the Lord, I went for a retreat, and the Lord said to me, "What is your name?" He asked me 3 times before I was able to decode my name. I said, I was mentioning my name, and I got upset at some point. Won't I know my name? And guess what? For the first time in my life, I had an understanding of my name. And my name was Afioluwa Otaibayomi Moshe Bolaton. And after that, and suddenly it dawned on me that if not for God, the enemy would have mocked me. I thought wealth and honor had finished. And God said, change your name. Because things will go up, I'll do well. At some point, it will plateau, and I will come down again. And when people are about to, they are mocking and co, another breakthrough comes, and I'm up. 1-2 years down, I'm down. And he said, change your name. Why can't you bear African Farmer? African Farmer was the brand of my honey. And he said, I'm taking you across Africa. And that's why I am bearing African Farmer to date. Praise the Lord. I will start by taking us through the journey. And I said earlier, when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. I'll take us through a journey of God's divine agenda for Nigeria. Because if you are not conscious of the agenda, you will not know how to position. And positioning is very key. Because if you understand that the person seated by you may eventually be the governor, or the president, or a senator, or somebody that can recommend you in future, you would not accord that person the honor. So, can I take the first slide? On my slide, on the first slide, you have General Abubakar, Abdusalami Abubakar. You know, when the late president died, he became the president. Are you aware that he's also massively involved in agriculture? When he went through that transition, who was the next person that came in? That is President Olusegun Obasanjo. All of us know President Olusegun Obasanjo as a farmer. I'm going somewhere. After President Olusegun Obasanjo was who? Yaradua, President Yaradua, late President Yaradua. I put a trophy there because when he was governor, his state won best state in agriculture for 8 good years. So that means that he was actively involved in agriculture. After that, who was the next president? President Goodluck Jonathan. And if there's anything we remember him for, was his involvement with Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, where the agricultural revolution took to the next level. And after President Ebele Jonathan was who, or is who? President Muhammadu Buhari. And when they asked President Muhammadu Buhari to declare his assets, what did he declare? He said, wait, let's declare it that way he said it. He said, farms, plural, and cows. So it is not a coincidence that after the military rule, every of the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been actively involved in agriculture. God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes. So if God has been deliberate in positioning every president to be involved in agriculture, then he has an agenda. So when you look outside that, let's bring it back into the church. Next slide, please. Who do you see? Pastor Taiwo Idukoya. For years, it was the one, almost 20 years, I began to talk about the fact that God has taken the wealth of Nigeria from oil into agriculture. They have a massive, over 1,000 acres, I think almost 12 years farm for the ministry. Next slide. You have Pastor Wale Olajuyin, Clam, They have over 1,000 acres also for the ministry. Next, you have Pastor Yemi Davis, Global Harvest, is also involved in cattle rearing. After that, you have Bishop and Mrs. Felix Adejumo. They also have a massive poultry farm. I'm going somewhere. After that, you see another world changer, Bishop David Oyedepo, the first private university in the country dedicated to agriculture. And after that, yours faithfully, our Father in the Lord. It is not by chance that the people, the church leadership, the people we honor, that we know they are men and women of God, have been involved in this value chain. So it's crucial for us to pay attention to the seasons. So agribusiness and industry analysis. So from the leadership of the country, we see how God has been positioning people who love agriculture. In the church, as far as Nigeria and the world is concerned, the African continent, we see how these leaders also have been positioning. Go and do your research. But in leveraging the opportunities in this agri sector, you will have to pay attention to mindsets. And if you don't know the mindsets, you will assume. So one of the mindsets is, they call it agribusiness, A-G-R-I-C, A-G-R-I, agribusiness. Globally, that's what they call agriculture. And there is what I call agric business. There is agribusiness in Europe and US. In Nigeria, we are still at the level of agric business. And I have authority to say this because my dad was the second GMD of Odua, group of companies. And I'm privileged that my mom, Nigeria Agric Insurance, which is over 30 years, my mother is part of the committee that put together the policy. So I even grew up in this sector, traveling around Southwest, managing businesses with my dad and Okitipa Oil Palm. And so, one of the main challenges when you're talking about industry trend is we try to copy what is done in Europe and in US. We copy and try to paste here, and it doesn't work. That's why you find many people say they are losing money. They are losing money because they are bringing what does not work here. They do precision farming there. Here, we are dealing with human beings, majority of them who are not schooled. So the dynamics, the environment here is different. So we need to understand that the level in which we are here is different. So let's talk about mindsets, value chain approach. What is value chain approach? Value chain approach is the different aspects of agriculture that you can get into. And so from here we have from production, processing, marketing. There are different aspects. But let's bring it to the church. There are different value chains that make every church service work. You have the man of God, the minister. You have the ushers. You have the protocol. You have people that take care, Nehemiah, the people that clean. You have different people that do different things to make each service. You have the camera people. You have the intercessors. You have different people doing different things, but they are working together. So agribusiness value chain is also different aspects that you can plug in within the big system. So Abraham was what? He was a cattle farmer. But his son, what was his son into? He was into crop production. I hope you know that Solomon, King Solomon, was a trader. If you check 1 Kings 10:28, Bible records that they bought horses. They were importing rather. They bought horses from Egypt and sold to another location. That's exporting. Also, processing Proverbs 12:27 talks about you roasting your game. Roasting your game means value addition. If you kill grass cutter now and you don't remove the intestine and smoke it, it will go bad. But the moment you add value, you sell premium. So, it's very crucial that we pay attention to the value chain. Not everybody can be a farmer. Not everybody is even called to be a farmer. Not everybody is called to be a farmer, but you can stay within that chain, which is very crucial. And let me use some data around risk and opportunity and the value chains in which we can pay attention to. So according to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, 2016 to 2020 estimates, during the last administration, or this administration, the first term, they put together a document on the opportunities in the agri space. And so they picked rice, the demand 6.3 million, the supply 2.3. For wheat, 4.7 million is the demand that we need, 0.06 is what we have. For soybean, for fish, you have this thing online. For tomato, we have a need of 2.2 million, but we have 0.8. For yams, for oil palm. So with my experience, I've put in a bit about 23 years full-time in the sector. So what did I do? Because I've tried my hands on many things, I decided to go and look at what will work and make it happen. So you have a lot of documents across the nation telling you, you'll be hearing of there's $10 billion opportunity in cassava. There's 500 million. The question you should be asking, and I know the question many of us are asking is, can I take advantage of these opportunities? We're just hearing, how many people have been hearing the billion? Okay, so you are part of me. So, what I decided to do was, okay, I have experience, I have knowledge. Let me break it down so that you have an idea of where you can plug in. You look at your experience, you look at your exposure, you look at your network, and look at where you can fit in. So for rice, for us to produce the 4 million metric tons, based on what we have, not hybrid seed or anything that we don't have, we would need about 1 million hectares. That is 2.5 million acres of land will be cultivated. So what that means is that there's possibility that either they are buying your family land or they are renting your family land. So I like where they put me, Ikorodu, because it's closer to farm than VI or Idimu and every. So I really celebrated coming here. So you in Ikorodu here have the opportunity. And for the listeners also, there's land. Land is going to be the greatest asset. Growing up, our grandparents were not selling lands. They wheel it down. By the end of this year, land is going to be the most precious agricultural product. So this is not the time to sell the land, except God is telling you to sell the land. Let's put that clause. Because it is, people will come to you to say, okay, this land, can we partner with you? We have money, you have land. Especially foreigners. They will say, okay, we need you to take care of the local issues that will be showing up. We'll bring in money. And so your land becomes an asset. So lease land, don't sell land, except you say God told you. Looking at seeds, calculating it, we have 5 billion naira will be spent on seeds to produce. What that means is 5 billion naira will be spent on seeds, not what is currently being spent. When the border was closed, the opportunity to spend 5 billion naira came in. So either you are importing seed or multiplying seed. These are value chains that you can stay in. Chemicals, that is insecticide, herbicide, about 30 billion will go there. Fertilizer, 52 billion. And there will be a lot of organic rice and co coming up. Tractor service, that means they want to rent tractor To rent tractor, about 20 billion naira will be spent on renting tractor. So you really don't have to go to farm. And finally, on that rice chain, 40 million will be spent on on diesel. 40 million liters of diesel will be used. Likewise, tomatoes and co. But if you look at the oil palm under the nylon, if you sum it together, about 5 billion naira will be spent on nylon. And mostly, I jokingly but seriously say that if you are producing pure water nylon, you need to look at another nylon, because for us to grow the oil palm that we need, about $400 million was spent about 2 years ago importing palm oil and cocoa. For those things to grow, they must grow in nylons. So these are all value chains that you must begin to consider, not just to go and farm. So you can supply diesel. Whoever is supplying diesel now to the banks and co. need to begin to reconsider supplying to farmers and agri-cooperatives. So look into this value chain. I'll make this available online, and we'll be able to take advantage of that. Current trends. What's happening generally? Rice. Now, I read a book about 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He says, out of every adversity comes a greater or equal opportunity, provided you can find it. I come again. Out of every adversity comes a greater or equal opportunity, provided you can find it. Meaning, no matter the chaos or challenge that we have, it presents an opportunity. So every time you say government has not done this, instead of complain, look at it that it has created an entrepreneurial opportunity for you to take advantage. So, because we must provide the facts for you to take business decisions. As at the time the government closed the border, most of the farmers could not take advantage for 2019. But for 2020, it presents a lot of opportunities. So what that means is that the farmers could no longer go and plant in August. So very soon from now, you will see the prices of rice going up. But the fact that it's going up for you that have the privilege of listening today, the moment they begin to complain and you are complaining, you have lost money. But the moment they are complaining and you are saying, what can I do? I just showed you how much will be spent in rice, chemical, fertilizer, and coal. So which one can you bring on the table? That money must be spent. The question is, will you be taking money or you'll be giving money? And it's a function of the value you are bringing on the table. So, rice very soon will go higher. And the trend is, because many investors are also listening to me, the trend that has happened in the country is that during the cassava era, many heard of the 500 billion into cassava. Many went to plant cassava. Always ask, what next? If everybody goes to plant, what next? When you ask what next, like Zacchaeus, you can go and run ahead of the tree, so that when Jesus is passing by, he'll be able to see you. And in most of my seminars, I say, thank you, I say what is selling is different from what we sell. Focus on what we sell. What we all do is we all see something happening now. What do we all do? We rush into it. But you should ask the question, what next? Because after they rush into it, what next will sell? God told Noah to build the ark. Almost 100 years plus, almost 120 years. Do you know that he did not build by the seashore because there was no wood? He built in the forest. But God knew that water would change boundaries. That water would just lift the ark up. So, in whatever you want to do in agribusiness, what you should be doing is the positioning. Don't follow everybody. Because God knows that today, this is they call it shore. But tomorrow, the definition of shore will change. So stay with something that the sector is coming to meet, and you will become a principality. A principality is not a negative word. It's just somebody that has authority in an environment. You know, many of us as Christians, once we hear principalities, we bring the Bible. Principality is just somebody that has authority over a domain. In the cement world, Dangote is a principality. In the agric world, Dr. Kiwumi Adesina is a principality. So, which principality in the sector will you become? It's not enough for you to want to survive, to want to make money. You must be available for God to use that thing through you. Current trends, poultry. I've lost count of many people who suddenly want to become poultry farmers. Because the border was closed and chicken was expensive during Christmas. A day-old chick, the small chicken you buy, a day-old chick moved from less than 100 naira to 400 in less than 3 days, and it stayed and is still staying. So if you rush into poultry, border closure has a positive and a negative. Currently, a kilo of maize is selling between 100 naira and 105. Ideally, it should be 45 naira. Do the math. 45 now is 100 to 105. And the peak period that will be expensive will be around May, June. Meaning it has not gotten there. So if you rush into poultry, without you saying God gave me revelation or wisdom or something, you will meet it there. If you want to go and overscale your poultry farm, because many people are coming, if the price of soya has gone up or price of corn goes up, you will not be able to feed those things, you will shut down. This is very crucial. You need to pay attention to trends before you take investment decisions. All that glitter is not what? So you need to pay attention. There's a demand does not mean it is your demand to meet. It's very crucial. So trends of corn. The bricklayers, without any disrespect, when the lower cadre, when they want to buy food, they buy corn, hard corn, boiled hard corn to fill the stomach, not to enjoy corn, so that they reduce the cost of akwa and amala and meat. When they eat too solid and drink water, evening they are okay. They just take water to it. So corn also will sell. The livestock, every bag of animal feed has 40 to 50% of corn. So corn will sell as long as the border is short. And even when they reopen the border, the livestock industry cannot do without corn. And many of us also have ogi, akamu in our DNA. We must take it. So it's very crucial. Trends, tomatoes. We all know, the women here know, that every year around some period, tomatoes go expensive. And it's happening a few months from now also, it will be expensive. So we need to pay attention to supplies. How do I supply instead of how do I just farm? Farming brings you money to a point. Farming, a few years ago, I was, 2008, 2009 to be precise, I was doing a farm in Iseyin. And we plant watermelon, and the watermelon would sell, a normal bus load will sell for about 120 to 150, sometimes 180. We produced, but the same year I went to produce massive 80 acres irrigation, was the same year an ex-president also went to cultivate about 200 acres. Somewhere in the north. And so they were bringing trailers of watermelons to Mile 12. What we have been used to selling for 120, 150, depending on how harsh the harmattan and the sun is, they were now selling at 17,000. No, 25,000 naira. But transportation from Iseyin to Lagos was 17,000. The people that will harvest and load, 5,000 naira. So chemical, tractor, we've not counted that. So before you even harvest your watermelon, there's no money. So we eventually allowed it to rot. 80 acres. So because it's not, many people always paint the good side. However, it was last minute that close to my church, we run 4 services. I brought a bus load, got some boys from Ajegunle, gave them some bells. They were now ringing the bell. Watermelon, watermelon, watermelon. One Indian came. He said, how much is it? So we said, Lagos, 400 naira. In mile 12 was about 115 naira. The biggest of the biggest watermelon. So what do we do? He hit it. He bought 2. He left. Less than 10 minutes, he came back. He bought 2 more. When you see an Indian buying things like that, know that it's cheap. So in 1 hour, 15 minutes, we sold a bus load to people who were passing by. So what that meant is that there is a demand for watermelon. It's just that mile 12 where they buy, there was no parking. The moment there's no parking, the prices begin to drop. So as you are going into agribusiness, you need to be looking at disruption. What will you do differently? If you stay within what people have been doing, you will get the results that comes when there is glut. So you need to think out of the box. And so that takes me to regulatory framework. Before you go into any agribusiness in the country, please plan for insurance. We don't do insurance. But I can boldly tell you, NAIC, Nigeria Agricultural Corporation, Insurance Corporation, set up by federal government, is in every state of this nation. And they pay your premium that you pay 2.5%, 2% on crops, 2.5% on livestock. Even 50% of that has been paid by federal government for over 30 years. That's what is still happening. Because it's subsidized to make sure that if something happens, you are secured. If you produce crops, if anything happens, 90% of the amount you spent, maybe there's drought, maybe too much rain, like it happened in October, they pay you 90% back. Over 30 years, that scheme has been there for processing, for production, for whatever you are thinking of in the agri chain. So please, the multinationals are the ones doing insurance. Who needs to do insurance than the small and medium scale? That if you lose the money, you have lost a lot. So let's take advantage. Before you complain about government again, I'm not a politician, I don't carry any card, but ask, what has government done? What infrastructure exists that is wasting? There's a lot of state, federal, and local government infrastructure that you have that is wasting around. So insurance, do insurance. Go to any Ministry of Agriculture, ask for where the insurance office is, or go online, Google. The Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government has made provision for this. Please take advantage. Then let's go to sustainable investment models. Because if you don't know how to invest in this, so when I use the word invest, you can also how to start. So that you don't think they are talking about big money. So how do you leverage? So what I have done is to check some key players. And the first model is what I call Obasanjo model. I've been teaching this and it's working. And what is Obasanjo's model? Baba has positioned like Lazarus. What do I call his name now? Zacchaeus, thank you. Who climbed the tree ahead. So Baba has invested in Day-Old Chick. So if you want to start poultry now, that Nigeria needs to be sustainable in poultry. Baba invested in that sector. So as we are all, we want Nigerians to eat a lot of protein. You must contribute. I call it ajo. You must dajo. Because as you buy, the company remains there. So what are you going to invest in or start? That when people are coming in, they will just be lifting you up. You know that when they do triangle, pyramid. As many people are coming in to make sure that we are poultry sufficient, you are pushing him to that peak. Let's think like him. He has been there for over 30 years. 40, I mean. So think, when you begin to think like what the people ahead, you get the result. The second is Dangote model. How does the Dangote model work? I've done a bit about Mr. Aliko Dangote. And I found out that it doesn't really start anything new. My favorite word in my office, they make fun of me because of this word. Everybody say the word leverage. Say it like you mean it. Leverage. Leverage, leverage, leverage. Leverage, leverage, leverage. Mr. Aliko Dangote leverages. There is a project that has been abandoned. There is a PwC McKinsey document that they've completed the job and dumped it. Either government commissioned it and they didn't use it. He picks it up, dusts it up, adapts it to current situation, and he moves ahead. So look for what has been abandoned. Look for what has not been completed. The Dangote tomato we are talking about, his factory is located around, I think it's a 25,000 acre. I've been there. Irrigation farm that was built by government, and the farmers are farming. So he built the factory less than 100 meters. So you'll be farming, I will be processing. The Numa sugarcane farm is another abandoned government project that he picked up. They weren't running it properly, wanted to get money out of it, and he leveraged on it. Was it the one that did the research on the Lagos refinery? So the question is, when we begin to plug into the mindset of the people who have gone ahead, we will get their results. You don't have to operate at that level. There's a scale for you in agribusiness. There's small, medium, and large. But the mindset is a principle. You adopt the principle, you get. And the final model, what I call cooperative model. For many of us who want to start now, cooperative model is the best model for us to get involved. How does that work? 2, 3, 4 of you come together with clear, defined terms. So what happens is, if you have a project that is 5 million, or 50,000, or 500,000, as the case may be, if it is 500,000, 5 of you can bring in 100,000, even though you have the 500,000. Excuse me. If it is 50 million, 5 of you can bring 10 million. You share the risk. That's what they do in America now, where many people share a cab. Share the risk. 3 or 5 good brains with different exposures and experience will make the project work. All of you cannot go wrong at the same time. You will have somebody who has management skills. Someone has marketing. Someone may be a lawyer. Someone may be analytical. And so you will keep that business working. Now, my job today is not to come and tell you about go and invest in poultry. Is to share the principles. 17 years ago, I decided to go and find out what works and share. That took me to Ghana, my first trip to Ghana, for 5 good days, 4.5 days. I was taking bread and water morning, afternoon, night. I didn't have enough money, but I just wanted knowledge. And about 17 years later, part of what I discovered every quarter is what people are celebrating when they call my name today. I remember when I was coming back from that trip, I could only buy 2 things for my family, my wife and my daughter. I bought 2 apples, one for my wife and one for my daughter. So it's crucial that we understand how these things work. So how do you leverage? Number 1, you get revelation. I want to bring it to the church now, because I've done consultancy, I've done advisory for a lot of believers, and it's amazing how more like you take water and you go and pour water into the ocean. Or a video we did recently, people are pouring water into baskets. You get revelation. We celebrate Isaac today. It was what God said that Isaac did. Bible says, stay in Gerar. Go and Google it. Gerar is 40 acres. Gerar is 40 acres. I saw a video, 40 acres. So the price of what, when he made 100-fold, it was the price that went high. I used to think it was massive land. And what did he do? God gave him wisdom on irrigation. Till tomorrow, the price of irrigation, when you grow tomato, grow corn with irrigation, you do 100, 200, 300, sometimes 500%. Very soon, the same tomato they sell for 6,000, 5,000 will be going for 30,000. So the wisdom for irrigation, get revelation. And 2, get direction. I planted a corn. I do a lot of corn, especially fresh corn, not dry corn. God showed me. You know, when you say Oha, I saw clearly. I was not sleeping. I saw myself on a massive land doing irrigation and co. So 250 acres, I went to take it, government land. And so we planted, everything was going fine. And then we didn't have diesel, Xenon. Xenon was the only one approved to bring in diesel then. So we didn't have diesel. So what happened? I had 3 million naira running around because we spent about 2,000 liters. We use about 2,000 liters per day to irrigate. So it's about a 2,000 acre, but I was using 250. We were looking for diesel, we couldn't find diesel. And the 250 acre dried up in my presence for 2 weeks in February. When the corn was about to come out. So the corn was just preparing to come out. And so there was nothing to even harvest to sell. And I took facilities from people. And so I could not come home for 6 months. And I always say, God bless my wife. She was paying NEPA bills, school fees, everything. And I started again from 250 acres back to 5 acres in the same location. And in 2 years, I was out of that rut. So it's very crucial that you get direction. When I prayed and prayed and prayed, I said, Lord, but you showed me this place. I got there and I got the land. Do you know what he said to me? He said, I showed you. I did not tell you to go. You missed the timing. I said, hey, but you could have stopped me. And I got upset. And I said, okay, but if I miss it, he said, the strategy was not for you to go and run a farm. The strategy is for you to go and support the farmers there and buy back from them. You did not wait to get the details. David will say, shall I go? That's 1. Will I overtake? That's 2. In everything you want to do as a believer, get the what and how. If you don't get the how, you've lost it. And I've had series of this kind of challenges. And I like mentioning names. During the second election of Governor Fashola, we were reading, you first go and do accreditation, you come back and do the thumb printing, the election itself. I was reading the Bible, and the Bible just became like mirror. And I saw fish. You know the thing they used to build houses that you put water, like water reservoir. We had one in the house. And I saw big fishes jumping. So, I was like, okay. I'm to go into fish farming inside my house. So I quickly turned it around into another fish farm. And so I just found out that all my businesses, all the people who owed didn't pay. So I was like, Lord, how far? He said, I showed you the fish project. I did not say go and start rearing fish. What I showed you is for you to have a reservoir where you bring, just like call it an holding bay, where just for 1 week you just hold the fish and sell. It's not for you to go and start a fish farm. As believers, let's get it straight. Get clarity. Strategy is very important. Another thing you need to get, and also Jacob, the strategy was for him to cross the animals. Strategy is very important, especially when everybody is coming into agribusiness now. How do you leverage? Get insurance. And let me talk about spiritual insurance because we are in church, so to speak. I'm talking to brethren. What is insurance here now? Insurance is not the one you go and pay premium for. Insurance is doing what God said do. Because when He says go and do it, it is ensured that the result will be commensurate to what He said you should do. So, when Joseph, Bible says he went to store the farm produce, 20% in each local government. It was because by revelation he had seen 7 years of plenty and 7 years of drought. The project was insured for him. So what he only did was to store in time of plenty so that when it was scarcity, he would take advantage. And Bible says that the whole world came to him. If you want the whole world to come to your business that will be big, you need to insure it. And insurance starts with God. So it's very crucial that you hear God. Ask. Don't just rush into any agribusiness. Ask. What should I do? How should I do it? When should I go? Who should I partner with? I went into a partnership, and I will not say partnership is bad. And when we're going into the partnership, I said, Lord, how will this business end? It's an agribusiness. I've only done agribusiness. And I saw in the dream, I was talking to somebody one-on-one, facing me. And suddenly, he turned to me, and he wasn't going, and he was still talking to me. So I knew it wasn't going to end well. So I still did the business. But my expectation was low. So when we were to part, it was painful, but I had seen it. So ask. God knows what will happen tomorrow. Ask. And what? He is the one that says, I know the plans I have for you. Plans of good and not of evil to take you to an expected. So if He has the plans for you, ask. How else can you leverage? Get into a community. Get into a community. Please, these things are very crucial. In everything, the get I'm talking to you about has cost me nothing less than 5 million per get. All these gets, some 10, some 15, some 20, some embarrassment. I get very vulnerable when I come to brethren. Some embarrassment. Because God said to me, I don't know what He says to you. He said, whatever you go through is not for you. It's for the people I'm bringing to you. So please understand. So if you don't also want to get by negative experience, get this one. Very crucial. Another way to get into a community. Bible says don't forsake the gathering of brethren. So if you get into a community of people doing something similar, Apostle Paul, it was when they were praying that said, no, separate me. Who? It was when it was in the midst of prophets and teachers. Get in the midst of people who know these things or who get a coach such that the journey will be faster for you. So no matter what you want to do, all these get will help you. Then get to know the process. There is a process for everything. There is a process for everything. If you don't take advantage of knowing the process, and so I call it seasons. There's what we call times and seasons. And there's what I call time in season. In season. There is a time in the season of mango for it to have thick leaves. There's a time in that season for it to have flowers. There's a time for insects to come on it. There's a time for the fruits to come out. There's a time for the fruits to be big, to be green. There's a time for the fruit to be ripe. It is still in the season. And there's a time for men to throw sticks at it. There's time for men to throw sticks at it. I've passed that men throwing stick. But if you don't understand the season, that's the process, you would rush out abruptly. There is a project that is national today that the vice president even mentioned, that I rushed out and has become a global thing. Like I said, I'll be vulnerable with you. So don't rush out. And even when you rush out, ask God, there's another dimension to it. There is always a new dimension to it. So it's very crucial we pay attention. But guess what? Our population is increasing. One thing I believe we've not thanked this administration for is the fact that, treasury bills, they were getting double digits on it. Now it's single digits. Where will all that money go now? The investors. They will bring it back into the real sector. So, yes, you may say some things, but guess what? We should also thank them for a couple of things that is working and the new things they're doing. It's not everything that is bad. So, let's pay attention for these processes. It's very crucial. And so, the question is, what will God have you do in the value chain? Is what he asks you to do that you will back up. So don't rush into the sector. Rice is expensive. Don't go and rush into rice. Is your business collecting the peel of rice? Is your business to be making sack for the people who will carry it? When should you go into the business? When? So many people are throwing money. I've seen banks, financial institutions, they don't put in small. Last year, in a space of about 4.5 months, almost 5 months, I spoke to three individuals who are putting about 1.8 billion in agric. And they said to me, we can't even see anything. Do you know why they can't see? They can't see because they did not see where to go. All that glitters is not gold. You see, sustainability is very key for me. Abraham, God blessed him. Isaac, he did what God said. Jacob, his strategy. Everything is God-led. You can't do it like how others are doing it outside. Because my sheep knows my voice. And what? So, your relationship with God is not just for spiritual things. What did God do after he finished creation? He planted a vineyard. For graduates who don't have a job, and let me use that word again. When God retired from creation, what did he do? Bible says, and God planted a garden. When he retired from creation, he planted a garden. So if you're about to retire, pray about agric business. And if you don't have a job, Genesis 9:20, after the flood, Bible says, and Noah began to become a farmer. So he was jobless. There was nothing for him to do. So as a graduate, and I asked God years back, I said, Lord, how will I explain this to a graduate? And he said to me, you don't need what you don't have to do what I put in your heart. You don't need what you don't have. I said, show me. And he said to me, he said, do you have paint buckets around? Plastic, broken plastic? I said, yes. He said, will you pay for sand? I said, no, beside everybody's house. We can pack sand. He said, okay, if you pack sand in it. I said, okay, where will you get seed? That's for an unemployed graduate. He said, what, have you seen where they grind pepper? Do you know that tomato, tatache, bell pepper, rodo, everything grows by where they blend pepper? Because when they pour it, it grows there. And he said, okay, so if you don't buy plastic, you don't buy sand, and you don't even buy the seedling, and you gather about 30 of them. If you are unemployed and you take it to church, and you go and meet the wife of the pastor, ma, I don't want to be begging. I'm growing this. She will buy from you, she will recommend you, and it will be organic farming. So, it is crucial that we consult the scripture, the Bible, to know what to do as believers. I can come and tell you about, excite you, but in 23 years, I've been exposed enough to see excitement drop. Let's do a census. I'm a practical person, I'm a farmer. How many people have lost money in agri-care? Show your hand. Look around, though. Look around. Just turn around. Look around. Put your hands down. How many people have done any of the get before you put money? Put your hand up. Look around. So, I round up by telling you, about something that, okay, please write your questions so that we can take it. President Adesina, I hope you know they call him President of African Development Bank. When you meet him outside, it's Mr. President, Mr. President. So, he said something about ecosystem, that we don't have ecosystem for the youths. Did you hear it? And he was talking about like a different form of credit for the youths. But what I found out in talking to how I speak to 4,000, 5,000, is that after these kind of programs, what happens? What happens? Everybody goes back home. And they go back to the same thing. You go on Google, there's no result. So the thing is, we came up with farm credit, especially to support youths and new entrants, where we give some form of credit as input for you to start. But there are criteria to start, trainings and co. So the facilities are available, and I can tell you there's money in this country. Don't be deceived that there's no money. There's money in this country. Your prayer should be, you should be well positioned. The scripture says that the fastest runner does not necessarily win the race. Neither does the strongest man. He said it is decided by being in the right place at the right time. I pray that you'll be in the right place at the right time. I've seen this right place and right time many times. That the gift that God says will open a door for you, that gift, somebody is looking for you for it, and they pay you for that to meet what you need. So the farm credit is available because I've spoken on many grounds, and when I meet people again, it's the same story. So a couple of years ago, I was running a farm in Shekweteri, and I worked so tired. I came back, and I normally would buy Eko and Akara, I don't know what they call that in English, by the roadside. There's this Fulani woman that produces it for us. So all Fulanis are not bad. Praise the Lord. I ate the akwa and akara by the roundabout and I slept off. They had to wake me up after 2 hours. I got back there and in the night, the Holy Spirit woke me up and he said, your next level is not farming. Your next level is talking, training, teaching about agribusiness. And I did not listen because I know the amount of money you can make. So why should I now be talking to you when I can do it? But that particular year, there's just a small street on the farm, a government farm. One has, they call it pivot, top-notch irrigation system by the left. So we supported the farmers to grow watermelon. The other side, we use sprinkler irrigation. We did it. That year, somehow, close to harvesting, everything died down on my farm. But the people we funded made an average of 250,000 over the 250,000. Some made 1 million. But we funded them, 1 naira, I did not take out of my 7 million. So I know better to know that it's what God tells you to do that you will back up. Let me share this and I'll take the questions. I was also in a saying, one particular Easter. Oh, please permit me to share two. I may reduce the questions because these things, they are not in any textbook. They are not, and people are ashamed to tell you how they have failed. So you to go and rush into it. By the banks of the water, we plowed about 50 acres to grow watermelon. And that was the best soil. But as I was praying, the Holy Spirit said to me, on one particular land, the Holy Spirit said to me, if you have questions, please, who takes the questions, sir? Okay. They are passing baskets, put the question there. It's not for offering, it's for question. No? And he said to me, in Yoruba, Ori ile watermelon lo duro si, meaning you are standing on the land for watermelon. I picked the soil, it was sand. And I was like, this is sand. Watermelon don't do well here. I recall that year, the watermelon was not as big as the people who produce by the real dark, fine soil. Easter Thursday, there's Good Friday. Easter Thursday, we went home that the watermelon will not sell until after Galilee, Easter Monday. There was a rain that started that Thursday. The rain did not stop till we came back. By the time we came back, guess what? The land was flat land and swampy, but the watermelons were big. All the watermelon was floating in water. It was my watermelon on sand, on a slopy land. When the rain was too much, it was draining because it's sandy soil. Because it was slopy, it was draining water. I was the only one that sold watermelon that year. So it's crucial. There was a particular year, beginning of every year like this, I asked, Lord, in fact, I pray most of my prayer in Yoruba because I'm from Yoruba land. Oluwa kilo mata. Lord, what will sell this year? In the last 10, 11 years, he has been faithful. Ask. The Bible says you ask, you have not because you ask not. And that particular year, he said, Epalomata. Meaning granite is what will sell. He positioned some people who planted granite. That year, it was only granite that sold. And what would have sold for 1,005 because we harvested bad and good together, we didn't know. We lost. Others didn't do well. By the time we got to market, there was one accident, June 26th, that particular year. There was camp going on that day. Many cars were burnt just before Shagam. Our boss, by the time we got there, we just took Trum away. By the time it was next morning, the only groundnut to be sold in K2 in this Lagos was our trailer load. We sold for 88,000. After they sold it in the morning, come and see how trailers trooped in. It dropped to 3,000, 2,000. So, please, as believers, don't take it for granted to ask your father. These things nobody tells you. Some of us do well. It's because we are farming by revelation. So please pay attention to those things. If you have questions, we can begin to take those questions. But I'm telling you these stories because they are real. And many of you talk about Fulani, you call it headsmen. Most of my business associates in all the farms I operate, across Southwest and in the North, this same set of people were stigmatized. There's a negative side to everything, but let's balance it. People don't come to the public to tell you also what is working. When you want to start an agri project and you find out that there are headsmen not to ask, where is their community? You don't fight with your business partners. Do you fight with your business partners? So when I get to a new community, I ask for their community, they tell me. I take 2 things, 3 things there. I take rice, 10 kg of rice, chilled can coke, pack of chilled can coke, vegetable oil, and 10,000 new notes. So when I get to the community, I ask for the man of the house. You give him the money in envelope. You ask for the wife, you give the wife vegetable oil and rice. You now ask for the son, because when they go around with the cows, the father does not go with the cow, it's the boy. So when the boy decides to sleep a little under the tree, the animals go around and devour. So there are 2 types of the herdsmen. There are ones that come from outside Nigeria. They are the ones that really causes all these atrocities. And there are ones that speak Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, anywhere they are. And so when the boy is close to my farm, he's always on the alert. No cow comes to my farm because I now buy also fura and wara, cheese from them. We serve our staff. So the wife always tells the son, I hope you are protecting this man. So I don't have issues. Even Bible says wisdom is profitable to direct. Wisdom is profitable to direct. So don't just do it like others are doing it. You will get their results. So how come some of us are protected anywhere we go? And a lot of people are getting same result. Ask God. Yes, sir. If time permits you, I'll tell you the story of monkeys.
Thank you very much. We want to go to the question and answer. It's been a long day. And so let's have the question so you can take it up. How can I start off? I have over 50 hectares of land at Osun State.
50.
I think you just answer because there are so many.
Yeah, I'll just...
Okay. How and where can I get one? Can one get good seedling for planting? How and where do I get government approved land for farming, agribusiness, for farming and for agribusiness? Where do I source for funds for agri and what are the requirements? Can you talk on transportation and supply chain management as it relates to agribusiness? How can you help somebody that won't go to school to pick farming that as land? I don't understand this question. To go to picking farming that as land.
Don't worry, I understand the question.
As a young graduate who is passionate about agriculture, what will be your honest advice if I want to start a career in agriculture, and can you be my master, sir? Mentor. You said the price of corn will go up in May. When is the belt best time to go into poultry business? How can I get direct connection to the buyer? Are you saying taking insurance, the premium type, is not advisable? Do you consider you could have reduced your loss if you took insurance where you lost money? It's about insurance.
Okay.
So is it premium or police let me go? Sir, have you been on farm products alone? But please, what about those who have passion for animal farm or precisely piggery? Can you enlighten us on this? I am a farmer. My challenge is how to get the market for my products. How do I go about getting market for it?
Maybe after this one, let me just rush. Yeah, so I'll be answering those questions together. You have 50 hectares, you're looking at how to start. They displayed a number. You can call those numbers because each location differs. Fortunately, I've worked in Lagos State, Agbowa, Imota, Itoikin. I was in Itoikin for 5 years. So, at least Southwest, there is really no place that is new. So the thing is that there are peculiarities in every location. So 50 hectares of land in Itoikin is different from 50 hectares of land in Agbowa. Why? In Itoikin is government lands. You have more labor readily available there. Because when they come, beginning of the year, they know they have work to do. Except it's an agri community in Agbowa, they may not show up there. Cost of labor will be different. And the peculiarities also is different. So it's not something that we can answer just like that here. Where do you get seeds to buy? Contact us. What we do at Farm Credit is to give credit, hybrid seeds, and so you can take fertilizer loan, you can take seed loan, you can take different loans without coming to say, oh, I want 400,000. And 400,000 will be for everything you will spend. You may just need seed. You may have fertilizer. And you may have, what do I call it? You may just have insect problem and you just need insecticide. So government lands, go to any Ministry of Agriculture, ask for river basin. Other lands that governments, river basins, they are the custodians of bulk of these lands. And it's around February that they give it out. So you are still at the perfect timing. But don't forget, who is sending you to the farm? Funds and requirements. Well, nobody can give you fund anyhow. You must have something you want to do. You must be well laid out. You must have done your homework so that when they ask you to say, okay, what do you want to do with the money? How are you going to sell what you want to, let's say you want to process now. Where would you get the raw material from? Who is going to buy from you? The equipment. When it has faults, do you have any mechanic that can fix it? Once you are able to answer, preempt all these questions and answer these questions, you will get money. Money always locates passion. I have raised a lot of money where people just know, I trust him, or somebody says, I trust him, give him on my behalf. What are you passionate about? You must be passionate about what you want. I'm not saying you must like what you want to do. You must be passionate about it. You must have served somebody. Nobody wants to give you money to go and start something that you don't know or you don't have background. And you cannot say, oh, I belong to this community. I have this fallback network. They have this experience. So you can borrow experience. Because many people stay at, I don't have money. But the question is, are you, I know I said get into a community. When people know that you are in a community, okay, take for instance, and I'm not saying come to me. So when people hear that you are in a community I belong to, 9 out of 10, they may not be at peace with you, but they will say, with that guy, he will protect the thing. So get into a community. Transport and supply chain. There's a huge need for transportation in the agri sector. And don't forget, I mentioned the word disruption. Don't go and do it how others are doing it. What will you be doing differently? Go to an agrarian, a community where they farm a lot. Or if it's processing. Now, rice processing is going to be the main thing. Who will be transporting finished products? And you will not be having headache of they collected money, they didn't deliver. So if you position around communities where they are producing something or they are processing something, do you know that those trailers around Dangote, they go and park there. Honeywell, they go and park there, waiting for business. So don't go and just say, begin to apply it. You will not get the money back. In fact, you will not get the money for tire back. So positioning is crucial. Agribusiness does not have anything to do with education. You just need an open mind. You just need an open mind. I didn't see it in the Bible that Jacob went to school or that David went to school. Bible says they were in the bush with the sheep. So if they got education, it was self-education. So I didn't see any of our founding fathers have one degree. It was Moses that was schooled. So let's don't put a barrier that God has not placed before you. If you don't have education for now, you don't need it for now. If you will need the education, you have to do something to send yourself to school to acquire the knowledge. So acquire a skill, which is also education. You want to start a career in agric? Go and, if you are not a graduate, go and serve someone. If you are a graduate, go and serve someone. The reason why I can say that God has blessed me is because I have served many people without getting paid. 2 years ago, I went to serve someone for 1 year, paying my own salary, traveling on behalf of the company. And guess what? The people I met in the process of serving this prominent man are relationships I fall back on. When I first created this CD, that was when I met Alhaji Sani Dangote, Dangote's younger brother, who is the vice president Dangote Group. I was serving their organization free at the expense of my business. And when I said, "Oh, sir, we just created this CD," he said, "Oh, bring it. Let me take a picture with you." You know, when he says, "Let me take a picture with you," and he said, so I was far from him. He said, "No, move close, smile a bit," so that he smiled, I smiled. I took picture. When I put it on Facebook, people were like, "Oh, you're smiling with him. You must know him very well." They began to buy. So, and it is the place of serving. There is something you have that you can exchange. Poultry business, 2020. To start poultry business, I've said, except you say God said, we must always leave room for that God said, though. Except you say God said, start after June, July. Because the deficit of corn not being available, because they were not able to plant at that time. The ones they will plant now, many people will rush into it. You would have more corn, soya available towards the end of the year than before that period. So if you want to start when you would have the products you would need to feed them. Except God says go and start now. Where do you want to get buyer? I can tell you there are more buyers than even farmers. Buyers look for different quality. Are you producing a quality? Once you produce good quality, and before you produce the quality, begin to talk to some people. They say, if you go to mile 12, when you take it there, they will price it badly. If we get to mile 12, they will stop selling your product. They will sell our product. Why? We don't compromise seeds. And this is why I brought this. I'm a practical person. This one is 5 grams. They sell it for 6,500. This one is 50 grams, some 100 grams. They sell it for 3,000 naira. Will you get the same results? No. This one, I think is about a 250 gram, is 6,500. This one is 2 kg, is 1,000 naira. So, you see, all these things determine sustainability. If you don't want to spend money on something you plan to sit with, you will lose money eventually. If you don't produce what the market wants, you know, especially men, women ask questions. In Yoruba, they say, Abeyonoki Shino. As in, if you ask for direction, you won't miss your way. Men, this ego is egoing also. Yeah, because you say, no, you are on a budget. You have done this, you have done that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make money. So somebody was asking during the period when I lost money for the corn, did I do insurance? Bulk of the insurance only covers natural disaster. Natural disaster, not human error. Not having diesel in the nation is not natural disaster. It's natural disaster that human cannot undo. You can't solve it. If you go and Google on CNN this morning, there's locust. If you see locust ravaging the farms in Kenya, locust is a national problem. So that is why you insure. Too much rain. Every other thing is human error. Nobody insures human error. So someone is saying livestock or crops farm. Which one have you seen? Which one are you led to do? Nobody should tell you that. And don't follow your friend. Even the thumbprint of twins is not the same. So if the other person is following God's instruction and you are not following, in fact, I like the story of Jonah. Do you know what the Bible says about Jonah? When Jonah got into the boat and they were trying to salvage the situation, do you know what first happened? Bible said they threw their possessions into the sea. So when you are following somebody who is not following God, you will lose your possession. That possession you lose will become treasure for somebody else who will dive into the water one day and now find treasure. So the first thing is, so don't follow anybody that is disobedient. You will lose treasure. Market for products, like I said, there's market for everything and there's a niche for everything. And let me add to this. The service industry is going to be where a lot of money will be. If you're a lawyer, if you're a banker, if you're an accountant, if you're a branding person, whatever profession you have been in is something you should first consider bringing into agric. Because that is your comfort zone. You have developed expertise. If you're an HR person, look at what has worked in Europe and in US and bring it into the agric sector. If you're a welder, we will need to weld machines. First, package yourself as an agric welder, as an irrigation plumber. Package your service into agric and money will be pursuing you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next set of questions. Apart from assisting with loan, does Farm Credit give directions for upcoming farmers?
advise us on soilless farming. As a new farmer, can someone start poultry farming, and what about the risk in time of diseases and other risks with a minimum of how much? How soon can we get farm credit? What is the procedure for the credit? What is the percentage of interest? When do we pay back? Land availability, how can one go about it? Advantage training countries or available training centers on agribusiness. Can you direct us there? I have a land, how can I find myself in the value chain? I hope that land is not one plot too. Anyway, you can start there. Do you take seminar on snail farming? I'm a young graduate currently unemployed. I have vision to start agriculture business. Please briefly advise how to start with your expertise. You don't talk am now. Good afternoon, sir. It's an honor to be blah, 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 blah. Please, what can a person whose time has been engaged in an existing business but want to go into farming because we are told that farming needs one's attention or presence? Where to get agri-cooperative office? I have 3 acres of land given to me to use for a while. How do I go about what to do with it? How does one get a return on investment and loan? In which area can one invest his money? What are the institutions that support a newcomer into the agri business, and what extent is their support? We're going to round up the questions. So, the last leg, sir. How can I go into irrigation farming, and how do I get laborer for farming? Do you have a WhatsApp group for farmers? What and where is the place for agric education and extension in the agric value chain? Please, Mr. Africa Farmer, kindly advise me if I am to venture in goat rearing. You don't become another Jacob now. What is the best to do about the pitfalls in snail farming? What steps can be taken in agri-allied supplies? The last one, for the benefit of those in Rmf Inspiration Conference, can you consult for us lesser than your usual consultation charges? Is it advisable to focus on one particular crop plantation? Do I have to go to agri school for knowledge in agriculture?
Okay, so do you have to go to agri school for for knowledge? If you can, there are a lot of short courses. Even President Olusegun Obasanjo, when he left as military administrator, went to more plantation to sit in class to learn agric. After being the former military administrator of Nigeria, went to class to sit down in more plantation in Ibadan. Fortunately, I finished for more plantation too, to sit down to learn. So if you have not led this country before, go and sit down somewhere to learn. So it's very crucial. How you get the knowledge is not important. If you have access to YouTube, there's a lot to learn on YouTube, but get into a local network also. Can I consult for the RMF cheaper? How come you're not saying, can we pay you more so that we can get your time? Listen, please. It's a function of value. It's a function of value. It's already saying that you want to spend 1,000 instead of buying 6,500. So it's mindset, paradigms. That question tells me where you are going. And the answer is, I am open. In Yoruba, they say, Omotoba Shikpan Yengbe, meaning it's a child that opens the hand that the parents carry. It's all not about, the moment you begin to talk about money, you have put a limitation. Because if it is money, I won't come here today. So reading between the lines, irrigation, where do you get irrigation and labor? There are a lot of questions here. I'm sorry for this, but the truth must be told. And as believers, we should tell ourselves the truth. There are many lazy questions here. We must not lie to each other. A chunk of these questions are online. I spent when on internet was 10 naira per minute, I spent 2 hours in the 90s every day. See, nobody just becomes a star like that. There's a price you pay. So go and pay your price, because you see, many people, they want to come to the office, they want to see you, but the question is, if you do research and you come and you said, I've done this and done this and done this, can I get your advice? It's a better use of my time than I don't know what to do. I can't help you, because even me, I don't know all. So it's very crucial, do some research and come to say, oh, then I will begin to see you as someone who values my time. And does not mean any other expert you're talking to. 9 to 5, somebody's saying, okay, investments. If you look at Farm Credit, there's a portion for that online. Cooperative, 9 to 5. If you are in a 9 to 5, I would advise you use the cooperative model and you want to get involved. Use the cooperative model or go online, go on our website. There's something available for you there. What percentage, if we have this, if of interest, if we display the website, go to the website, whatever you don't see, send a mail or send a text message. Training, soilless farming. Many people talk about soilless farming. Soilless farming is good, oh, but it is not cheap. When you hear greenhouse farming, it looks cool, it sounds cool, but the returns. So there are a number of greenhouses you must have to be profitable. There is activity, there's accomplishment. What I've seen is the soilless farming, there's a level, there's a scale you need. So many people just go into it, they take pictures, bam, social media, Facebook. They are taking the pictures. You are seeing the thing grow. But they don't show you the numbers, oh. Have you seen how many people after harvest showing you they are smiling? It's the initial picture. Those are the ones you see. And year 2, you won't see them again. So do the math. Even Bible says that if you want to build a house, will you not first count the cost? So don't do it because others are doing it. Because others are crying after they invest. It's a good idea. But not all good ideas are profitable. So find out the margins. And don't take, when they want to sell these things, they tell you, you can make X amount. What do you want the seller to tell you? Will you want the seller to tell you that she will not make money for 1 year? So if the seller said they will sell 1 kilo for 600, go to the market. How much do they sell this type of tomato, this type of this in soilless farming? Soilless farming is good, but know what you are going into before you go there. Because if the seller tells you that, oh, in 6 months, you would have broken even and you have made profit. But in the real field, it's 1 year. If you go and take a loan, your integrity will be at stake. Even if it is your last kobo, you have been saying, I will sweat it out. I will be passionate. I will be persistent. And after 6 months, you now find out that it is 1 year. You'll be discouraged at 6 months. Oh. There was a friend of mine who they gathered themselves. They went to their village to plant cassava. So they produced cassava. They went to the farmers and told the farmers which cassava comes out very big. So the farmers gave them the variety. Free. When they came to me, I said, you will buy it from this person, not me. So they went to the farmers to get the one that is going to be very big. So they planted it. They didn't tell me again that they planted. They planted about 40 acres. They didn't tell me again. So at 1 year, they now went to harvest. They took all their money and co. When they harvested, the cassava had many big leaves, big stem, but the tuber, small. They now did random sampling, small. He now came to see me, Diane, what do you think? I said, okay, which variety did you plant? And they said, we just go to the farmers and ask them which one is very big. But guess what? The farmers plant 2-year variety. You want to sell to processor. The processor needs starch and flour. The ones the farmers is best for gari, and the ones that when they don't have money, they will uproot. So they gave you the response to the answer you asked them. They abandoned the farm. It was grass cutter and rodents. But God feeds everybody, even the animals. Yeah. So how did the animals maintain feeding themselves for another 1 year? Because manna from heaven came from somebody who didn't want to spend money. And that's what happens all the time. If you don't want to spend money, you eventually spend money. Poultry diseases is online. Well, I've spoken about training. And so, I'll round up with this last story. There are so many stories as a believer. Please, I've said many stories so that you can remember the story. And the Holy Spirit will remind you so that you will not make our mistake. I end with this. While I was producing the corn, there are many things in the business plan in new location. Like if they say anywhere, Okiogun, it's saying Shekweteri, Shaki, Igbora, Eruwa. Do you know what is not in any business plan that is risk? It is monkeys. No, if monkeys invade your farm, error code. But it is not part of the risk. If you're a banker here, if you hear Okiogun, ask for what they will do to mitigate against monkeys. So we planted the corn. When they say Oju Mitiri, my eyes are soon. We planted the corn and now found out that they now told me that monkeys was a challenge. And so the corn, when the corn gets to something like this, the monkeys will come and they will break it and use it like sugar cane. And they will come in their hundreds. If they don't come at that stage, when it has brought out corn, if you catch corn with monkey, you would think it's human being that ate it. They eat it with style. They eat like human beings. So you will be saying that some people are stealing. But it's just at the level at which they are devouring the corn. How many humans will come? So when they told me, I said, what do we do? They said, we do 3 things. I said, what? Number 1, they said, we either go to an herbalist. Yeah. You see, there are many things we don't know. They go to an herbalist. The herbalist will use the skull of monkey to do some concoction that they will mix with the seeds to plant. The monkeys will not eat it. But the day one person removes one fresh from all over the world, the monkeys will devour that farm. You know, it's only the blessing of the Lord that makes rich. So the blessing of Satan. I said, what's number 2? Number 1 is no option. You know, unfortunately, it was painful for me because we pray. And they see me praying in tongues also on the farm every day. And they still came to tell me to go out to herbalist. Option 2, they say, is also an herbalist. And this time around, they invoke spirits to protect the farms. And so noonday, you walk with your back. Anytime you are coming in, they say squirrel will not eat any corn. Any human that tries to eat the corn, spirits will beat the person out. I said that is the most expensive, but that's what they do most. They now even told me, they said, Alagbagoshe, as in, like Deacon also did this, there's no big deal, sir. Meaning, with all your tongues, protect your farm. I said, what is the last one? They said, you have to engage security people, but they sleep. Oh. And do you know when monkeys come to the farm, they either come between 6 and 7. So as they are getting to the farm, you are seeing them running away. They've eaten. When the sun is very high and you are resting, that's when, as you are going to rest, they are coming. And evening, around 6:30, when you are leaving, they will eat to 7. God help you, when there is moon, go back to the farm. If not, they will use that moon to eat the. So I went back home disappointed and upset that with my tongues, they came to tell me to go to the herbalist. So you see, as simple as bless this food in Jesus' name, that was the day I knew that meaning. If it is the corn or the yam that they use the skull and incantation to grow, you have consumed it. As simple as that is, as believers, we take things for granted. So I said, Lord, there must be a solution. I can't do this. And the corn farm is too big for security. Cut the story short, I was praying in tongues in the night. Around 2 o'clock, the Holy Spirit spoke to me. He said, everything the enemy, Satan, does is to pervert what God has done. And he said to me clearly, he said, what did God do when he sent Adam and Eve away from the garden? Bible records that he placed an angel with a sword of fire so that they will not come in. Angels, Bible says angels are spirits. So these people also invoke spirits to protect. And God said, why don't you go and send your angels to protect the farm too? I was like, yeah, if God doesn't give you revelation, you are stuck. So I said, in the name of Jesus, angels are meant for me to send on an errand. Protect the farm in the name of Jesus. I got to the farm and said, oh God, won't you do anything? I won't do anything. And guess what? Monkeys ate. But they ate what was negligible. Because God made farmer to produce and made it that animals also must eat small, but they do not destroy. If they destroy, it's cankerworm. And that was how we were able to take care of monkey without getting any spirit involved. I want to encourage you that please pay attention, take the spiritual life into agribusiness. And that is the only guarantee that you will excel like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. I want to say thank you for having me. I really appreciate you. And we have some products outside that please get it. I spoke a lot about a lot of spiritual things. There are some things that are principles.
Please don't go yet. Please don't go yet.
Thank you so much.
Please, can we appreciate him, please? God bless you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Please, can we have our seat for just 2 minutes? We started all this. I I want to give you a revelation that this conference was supposed to take place a year ago, January last year. But election and different kind of things didn't allow it to happen. Now, it has happened this year. We're praying to God that it will be an annual thing. I hope you want it. So, whichever church that you have come from, if you're a redeemed person, some people made this happen, and I want you to appreciate them. Presidents from provinces that are here in our region and outside our region. Please, can you stand up for recognition? These are all presidents, Province 22, 33, 41, 52, 68, 75, 28, and all over like that. These are presidents 63 from all the provinces. Thank you. God bless you. So what I'm trying to say is that, please, if you're a man in any province, when they talk about RMF, support them, whatever they are doing. In your own province, something like this will happen this year in Jesus' name. So please support RMF wherever it is that you hear about it. All that happened here today is because of these men that have come together with RMF in the whole of Lagos. God will bless you as you go. The knowledge that you have gotten today, don't keep it in your pocket. Utilize it. It may not be for you. It can be for your child. It can be for your sibling. It can be for your cousins. Let somebody use this knowledge. Don't throw it away. God bless you. Thank you very much. Can we share the grace together? May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ,